that kind of hits closer to home when it comes to me. That whole growing up isolated, self isolated, isolation, lonely, that type of stuff. The funny thing is that I'm not a person who really struggles now when it comes to connecting with others. Actually, it's pretty easy now. It's not routine because, if you don't, when you grow up and you deal from self isolation for a very long time, it's not something that bothers you, or it's not something that, has a deep effect when it comes to growing up isolated. And really, just isolated, it doesn't mean you don't have any contact with other people. It just means it's very minimal. You don't go out and socialize as much. I think in my younger years, it was very severe. I'm talking about really, really bad, man. To the point to where, when you don't have a healthy social life, that really does mess with you as you get older, because it's like not being able to hear, you know, even though you can speak, the fact that you can't hear, like you really can't um, speak straight or properly or whatever, because, you can't hear. So how you speak is a little bit off. Same thing when it comes to socialization. If you don't socialize normally, if you don't casually socialize, what happens is that all your interactions will seem a bit awkward, because you're like socially awkward, because normally you gain your social skills by consistently interacting with people. But when you don't consistently interact with people, it's like, a dull blade, like it's just like it very much so is a hindrance, and especially if you're trying to, connect with anybody at any kind of relationship angle. I mean, my goodness, man, let me tell you something. I didn't have a love life whatsoever. I mean, my dating life was non-existent. You understand me? Which sucks. Like, it really does suck to be by yourself. It really does suck to be alone. And one of the major fears when it comes to being self isolated is that when you grow older, it's like the world still spins. Like, everybody still moves on with life. And then you just look at the people around you who are the same age as you were as you were growing up. And you don't really click with anybody. Hello, Lacey. Welcome. Welcome to the video. I'm just talking about how it was for me growing up, self isolated. I'm doing okay. I mean, I would be doing a whole lot better if I, had somebody, if I just grew up normally. But, self isolation can be a very hard thing. In fact, what's so funny is that's really a take off my channel, Clues Room. Like, I've spent more time confined than outdoors. And that's crazy when you think about it. Hello, Amaya. Welcome to the room. And I think one of the most painful things growing up is that, like, you still try to connect with people, and you still develop like a crush on people, but it's like you don't, at the same token, like you begin to feel inadequate, and you don't, form any relationships. Like the relationships, or I'm gonna speak from my angle, the relationships that I did form were very much so in my mind, meaning that basically it was never a real relationship, but you kind of develop a connection with people, you know but it's like a distant connection to where, you long for a person, you long to see them, you long to be around them, you long for them to, be in a relationship with you, but you do all this stuff at a distance, you know you do all this stuff at a distance. And I think one of the most painful things is that whenever you long for someone and you're socially isolated, you don't know how to connect with others, is that you begin to see these same people move on with their life. And I think one of the most painful things that, you know, I had to deal with when it comes to that is that you see them, connect with somebody else, and it's like, man, I think that's a knife that cuts deep. It truly does. So, I mean, my summer was, I'm going to be honest with you, Lacey, my summer is like Groundhog Day. Like every day is like the same, you know? Said I'm home with my family, have no food or no house. You know what? Truth be told, Amaya, I can relate to that. If it wasn't for family, I'd be perfectly honest, I would be homeless. Like that's one thing that I've actually began to, understand. Like, and I think I've developed an affinity for people who go through stuff because it's like I know what it means to go without. So, to a certain degree, I kind of like being around those kind of crowds because to me, it's like it's familiar territory. It's kind of like that movie Jumanji, where at the end of the movie where they're in the house trying to finish up the game, and he says, well, the one woman says, well, shouldn't we play the game outside as opposed to in the house where they had all of this foliage because they rolled the dice and it was like all these vines and it made the house look more so like a forest. And Robin Williams' character says, I grew up in this. This is normal for me. It's out in the world that scares me. It's out there. And to a large degree, when you grow up isolated, you kind of feel that. Like I know people go through issues, and then face many things, but to me, it feels like home. It feels normal to me. If like being around people who have, are not quote unquote perfect, you know, to me, I feel like that's where you see genuine people. I will say that. I think that's another reason why I like to be around people who, um, deal with real life issues because you're around people who can relate to the issues that you go through. Not to say that you should remain, you know what I'm saying, the same each time, but like it feels very much so real. Like the connections just feel more genuine, I say. So, what can I say, man? Freedom to be yourself, freedom to be human goes a long way. I mean, I would much rather be around that than be around people who just have this weird arrogance. Have you ever been around people who just display an arrogance when it comes to life? They prop themselves up as better than the next person. As you get older, you begin to see how silly that is, especially when you look around you and you see that people, a lot of what people have like it's been passed down. It's been passed down. The stuff that people have been able to accumulate as far as their wealth and well-to-do and riches, a lot of this stuff has just been given to them, and they flaunt it as if they built it. When the truth of the matter is, it was an inheritance. It was something that was just given to you. You just happen to be fortunate. Some people work for what they have, but to a large degree, people who are in those positions of, you know, um, wealth, a lot of this stuff is just generational. It's something that your mommy gave you, that your daddy gave you. You are where you are because of the people who laid the road straight for you. So what can I say? That's usually how I see that type of stuff. But I'm happy to see that there's other people, in the world like me. It really is a comforting feeling to know that you're not by yourself, that you're not alone. Like it really is nice. So, one second, what's the screen? It's a weird thing. One second, orientation is locked, rotation device back. I have no idea, people, what this even means. Something popped up to my screen saying something. Let's see, one second. What is this? Okay, I'm not sure. Why is it so dark on the screen? Well, it's dark because I'm I'm sitting in the dark, to be honest. Um, you concept, of course, Lacey. I have no problem doing that. I will definitely subscribe to you. One second, let me take a screenshot. One second, no, I can remember. One second, Lacey Brook 05. Okay, I'm definitely going to sub to you. Most definitely. I like to connect with like-minded people. And you know what's weird? It's like as you grow older, you do see other people who are like in the same situation as you. And I've seen a bunch of guys who face the same exact situation as me. You know, what do they call them? They call them people who are the red pill incel avenue. I mean, the thing is, the difference between me and those guys, I'm going to be honest with you, is a lot of them will take on this whole culture war avenue. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't care about that simply because, like, to me, I'm worried about my immediate needs now. I'm worried about being established as a person, have my own, family, life. I like kitchen table issues and dealing with what's in front of me. I don't have time to be engaging in some random fight. Like to me, that's I've spent way too much of my energy, you know, um, trying to find happiness. I don't want to get into some random squabble about, who's whatever's bigger. Like I don't care about that type of stuff. I just want to be happy, you know. The phrase of my life, I just want to be happy. Um and like I've talked in my previous video, I think to a large degree, I will say this, to a large degree, we've come to a place. Thank you, Lacey. I appreciate that. We've come. What is this thing? It says this message has been held for review. Let's see. Oh yeah, one sec. Let me show. I'm sorry, Lacey, but this goofy thing on the screen. It said I don't block anything, but for some strange reason, it says it's being held for review. I don't know what that's even about. You know what that is? That's that presetting stuff that YouTube constantly does, so it'll block something, and I haven't blocked it whatsoever. I can't stand when they do these presets. I'm like, what? I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, what's he talking about? Helpful review. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's that YouTube stuff. I did not hold anything to say for review. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, there have been other guys in my similar situation. You know, you grow older and socializing does not become easier when you grow older. Like you're supposed to make these connections as you grow older. Like you're supposed to make these connections when you go to school, when you go to your job, just these casual everyday interactions that help you, when it comes to um, meeting your whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And, when you don't develop that, it's kind of weird. And as you get older, you still want to you still long for what other people, you know, want. Like you're still an adult. You still have stuff going on as far as that. But when you're just unable to, and the years pass by, my goodness, man, like that stings. I'm so sorry, room. I have to leave, but that's okay, Amaya. Definitely feel free to come on back. Whenever I do a broadcast, you can definitely feel free to come back. But it was nice talking to you. I appreciate you dropping by. But yeah, like I was saying, you long to connect with others, but for me personally, I'm not an old person. I hate to say the word old person, but I'm older, and sometimes it makes me wonder, man, am I going to be able to find somebody? Like that's the I would say that's kind of the unnerving thing, getting older and feeling like you're not going to be able to connect with somebody, or at least not connect with them in a suitable time frame. For example, if I were to have a kid now, my goodness, like that's like, oh my goodness, man, like I would I wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, common sense school, this and that, but still, it's like, God dang, man, you have to see them all throughout school and all throughout college. And how old will I be when all this is done, said and done? Like, I feel like I would have to be rich in order to, start a family. And what does it mean to be rich nowadays? I mean, come on now, we're dealing with a world that has a trillionaire. Like, what is wealth when you have people who've managed to accomplish, not even managed to accomplish, it was given to them, but what does it mean to be rich nowadays when a house is like over $1 million? Hey, what's up, Profound Lark? Welcome to the room, man. But yeah, like, the whole idea of even what it means to be rich. I would love to be a rich person. I would love to be able to afford just endless things. But like everybody else, I have to get up and, like, you have to work for what you want. I know it sucks, man. Not to say that, oh, I don't want to work, but hey, thanks, Profound Lark. I appreciate that. And if you guys ever want to talk about a certain subject, definitely feel free to talk about it. I can definitely elaborate. I'm just, making a video and speaking into the void, seeing if there's anybody else in the void who has the same, same kind of mindset or sentiments as me. It just feels it feels weird, living this kind of life and then growing up in a world where everything seems to be getting more expensive. Actually, yeah, I do play Fortnite. Fortnite is actually fun. I mean, I've been playing it off and on for a while, but I mean, I've actually gotten good at playing the game. But I play like a whole bunch of different games too. I play like mainly some shooting games, adventure games. I like to play, stuff like that. Um, but usually, I usually keep things as sociable as possible. Later, do you want to trade some sprites? I'm going to be honest with you. I have yet to even truly play this chapter. Like, my family has really been going through some stuff, and I've actually had to break away from gaming for a while. That's really why I haven't even been playing on like that. Like right now, my family, um, they're in the hospital. They're in the hospital, and I'm just like, my mind is not in a space to where it's kind of easy for me to keep up on, everything. How was your 4th of July? Like I said, my family being in a hospital as of late, it's kind of consumed everything. It's like, as you get older, your parents get older, and when your parents get older, if they even cough, it's enough to make you nervous. And when they go to the hospital, it can be very unnerving. Like, I'm burning through gas like water, just driving way out to the hospital to go see them consistently. I mean, my family, they're just, they're in the ICU, and the ICU is like, that's like the last level of the hospital. The ICU is like the final chapter for people. Either you get better or they give you a week to live. It's that type stuff. And that's some scary stuff. I believe they'll get better. They are gradually getting better, but it's definitely going to be a turn, if this timeline pursues as far as now. It's like, you know, one thing I never want to do is put family in a home whatsoever. That is not my character. But they need so much care to where it's not going to be like a home from the standpoint of, a home where they go and they're surrounded by other people, and doing checkers and stuff like that. No, they need a consistent level of care. Not to say that I'm going to be, like, one thing I will never do is abandon my family, period. But, their health is just to a fragile state as it stands now. And I mean, I mean, I've cried about this type of stuff, man. You know, I mean, it's a hard thing when it comes to, your family being in a hospital. But, it's like, I mean, what do you say? And what do you truly say? Like one person went to, like one person, as far as the same, hospital, they were in the intensive care unit. They were a young person too. Like the car rolled and they were in a car accident. And, it's like they gave this guy, from what I overheard, a short period of time to live. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. Like I've been to the ICU before, to where I had a family member, they were going for a bowel obstruction, and that whole, well, here are the risks, and the risk they said wound up playing out, and then next thing you know, the guy is on his deathbed, like my cousin dad, as a result. They tell you about the risks about when it comes to surgery, but when those risks actually happen, it's a whole different feeling, man. It truly is. And they were talking about, well, yeah, he could die. He could possibly die today. Oh my God, man. Like when I went to go see him, they have all the machines running. There's nurses walking in and out the room, and family members crying because they know that he's about to pass away. And you see the numbers on the screen going down and down and down. And he's just holding on. Like his body, I mean, he wasn't even there. Like he was pretty much gone. He's not blinking or responding. And, you see the numbers just going down and down and down. And, but then it starts up again. That's the most excruciating thing to witness. I think that's one of the hardest things to witness when you ever go to the ICU, as far as a hospital, to see somebody pass away. Because that's the thing. The doctors, they'll tell you, they'll sit up and tell you, say, hey, man, this person has a week to live. He possibly could die today. Like they actually tell you stuff like this, and then you next thing you know, you're in a situation to where, they give you the option. Well, do you want to pull the plug? And I've never seen a situation like that ever until, my cousin passed. I don't never want to relive that ever. Yeah, I'm just, people can call me whatever, but, I don't never want to be in a situation to where I'm in the ICU unit and the doctors are talking about, well, they could pass away in an hour. So, and then get your friends and family, and oh my goodness, man, you want to talk about a stressful situation. You'll never have a more stressful situation, I think, than being in the hospital, the ICU, and them telling you that, yeah, they could pass away today, and you're watching the numbers on a screen going down. That is one of the most excruciating things you'll ever see. I never want to relive that again. So, man. Well, so weird is I grew up, well, yeah, it's my cousin, and I grew up beside this guy. So to see my cousin in that state, it's like, man, like it did something to me. Because I've had family members pass away, but when you see somebody pass away in front of you, that's a whole different feeling. It really is, man. But hey, that's all I have to say about that. Like Forrest Gump says, that's all I have to say about that. So, but I will say this: getting older really does make me think about the story of Peter Pan. You know, it really does. As weird as that sounds, like it really does cause you to understand that story. And I'm saying mainly from the Disney, the Hook version of the movie, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I did not care for the animation Peter Pan. I just didn't. But the story Hook with Robin Williams, to me, that was the only kind of Peter Pan movie that I liked. Period. And it really did make me, think about the whole idea of life and death and getting older, and you get sickly as you get older and stuff like that, and family members and friends and what really matters when it comes to life. And it's like, man, this truly is, like life is supposed to be about making connections with people because like you're not going to live forever as it stands now. You know what I'm saying? And the only true currency and the only real reality is the connections you make with people throughout the years, family, friends, fun events. Like this is what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to live life to the fullest, you know. You're not supposed to be sitting up struggling. Like you're not supposed to be isolated. Like that I think that's one of the biggest problems that I've had when it comes to isolation is that, you know, like I'm missing the one part that's very important. Like you're supposed to connect with people, as you're alive. What the hell is the point of being born if you're not, living life? It really does make me think like that. Um, and some people might say, well, don't worry about that. Well, I do think about, what I'm saying, that type of stuff because when a day becomes a week, becomes a month, becomes a year, and it's just year after year after year after year, and you live the same circumstances, like it really does make you think, what is the point? Thank you, Lacey. I appreciate all this. Yeah, I'm sorry. I really gotta change the settings on this YouTube withhold comment stuff. I guess they keep bringing it up as spam because you put, a bunch of emojis, but I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it whatsoever. Just, you know, YouTube pre-settings. They'll just do whatever. But you know what's so weird? When it comes to YouTube, is that, well, they're trying to do this stuff when it comes to the internet, period. They're trying to make things, you know, age verification. Age verification. So you have to give these people your information in order to access the website. And look, I'm not looking up triple X adult websites. I'm talking about basic social media. They want your information just so that you can use a website. I mean, imagine if you had to type in your information just to use an email. Like all that stuff is about control. It's about control. I mean, that's really what it is. It's about a whole bunch of people who want to be the only game in town. Thank you, Lacey Brooke. I really do appreciate that. I'm happy. I'm happy to be a cool person. It's always good to be cool. But I truly do believe that, because just think about it. If you were a billionaire, or if you let's say you ran a lemonade stand or a lemonade business, you would want to be you would want to be the only people who have, the lemonade market locked down. So that's how they're thinking. Whenever you see these people, these elites, in these avenues as far as selling medicine, selling food, selling drink, they want to be the only game in town. They don't want to be, they don't want true capitalism. Capitalism is not supposed to be a predatory monopoly avenue, but they've made it that. Capitalism unregulated becomes abuse. That's where you get the whole sweatshop stuff, or that's where, you have billionaires talking about, well, I enjoyed the torture video. That's where you get the whole Epstein type of stuff when it comes to, unregulated capitalism. Oh, most definitely, Lacey. Let me tell you something. God has been looking out for me. God has been looking out for me like none other. In fact, truth be told, God, we're actually living during a very significant time. And I just pray that God hears my prayer when it comes to what I'm asking for. Um, but without God, trust me, I definitely would have been tanked a long time ago. I'm not supposed to be here. Like that's how deep my story goes. I wasn't supposed to be alive. If God didn't pull me out from the ashes and say live, I would have been gone a long time ago, you know? I've made it this far by grace. So I will never forget God pulling me from the circumstances where I was, because I was you want to talk about bad, man. I had it real bad. I mean, my situation was very severe. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I do plan to do a live stream. I'm just waiting for my computer to get out of the shop. Like, it's right now, it's Best Buy Geek Squad repairing my PC because I don't know how, but my computer motherboard, it just stopped working. They said due to a surge. I don't know how that happened. I have a surge protector, but maybe liquid fell to the power strip. I'm not sure. But bottom line is that I have, like, my computer is getting repaired. So once that happens, I will be definitely able to broadcast once again. In fact, I think I'm going to upload my other videos to this channel. What's your name? Oh, my name is Jamar. 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 I'm changing my last name though. It's a name that's been given to me. Um, Spelled Akachi, Akachi. Very significant. But may God's will be done. That's all I have to say when it comes to last name. Um, and what's so funny? Whenever I think about, connecting with others, and I think about what God said when he made, Adam and Eve, when Adam was there by himself, and God said, "It is not good for man to be alone." To me, that's very profound. Yes, Jamar, Jamar. Yeah, I think that's very profound. For the creator of the universe to say something like that. God said that it is not good for man to be alone. And vice versa. Like, it wouldn't be good for a woman to be alone. So I think that's actually very profound, because it really does tell you, that God sees the significance of connecting with others. I mean, really think about that. The creator of the universe looked at Adam by himself and said, "This is not good. It is not good for man to be alone." So, that really does go a long way when it comes to how things should be. Like, you're supposed to connect with other people. And if you're not able to connect with others, and you're just by yourself and you become more and more unstable, then it truly is a result of isolation. But yeah, I'm gonna call it for right now. I'm gonna lay down for a bit because I do have to get up and do some, some straightening out some stuff. But you know what, Brooke? It was nice to see you. I hope to see you in my other broadcast. I'm a broadcast where I'll be probably playing, like, what I'm saying, Shadow of the Colossus, or some kind of story game or whatever, something like that. you know. But I appreciate you showing up. I'll catch you all later. Peace.